Hola, buenas tardes, mi amigos. Welcome, KRFF 95.9 LPFM, RadioFreeFargo.org. We're streaming everywhere on this blue and green marble, and we likes to get into your ear hole with the content we provide. I am Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. I'm back. I had a week off. I was in Ecuador. I'm hot. I got bug bites, bruh. But anyway, I'm here. I thought about just, taking a break. But I ain't going to do it. The sun's shining. It's gorgeous here in Fargo. I talk about cannabis, the benefits of cannabis legalization, general cannabis news. If there's a crazy story about some guy hanging upside down and people are throwing bouncy balls at his head for money, I'll probably cover it. If there's a wacky drug bust and there's boats involved and explosions, I'll probably cover that too. So you never know. You never know. But the focus is Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. We open a big fat bag of cannabis news at 4:20. That's going to happen, so stick with us. I got the tunage to match. Maybe not. But anyway, thanks for joining me. I believe God created cannabis for us to use as we see fit, and I show him props every Sunday, Antioch Church. 10 a.m. we do a recovery class. If you've got a monkey on your back or you've kicked the monkey off your back, but you can still feel that little banana eater pulling at your pant leg, we know somebody, we know the man upstairs. We believe he can help you. So come on through. 11 a.m. we do worship. I'm on stick duty. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook. 1,200 mgs of CBD, locally grown, in fact. Whipped up into this other stuff with the compri and the oils and the colloidal. Put it on your outer body. Your outer body will dig it. Thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy, for sponsoring this show. You're listening to Radio Free Fargo 95.9 KRFF LP Community Radio. Business owners, managers, and nonprofit organizations considering advertising? Why not learn what underwriting is on a nonprofit community radio station instead? To learn more about what underwriting is, please contact us at our website, www.radiofreefargo.org, or at our profile on Facebook. Why not let listeners know that you support the community by supporting a community radio station like a 95.9? Now, right before me, but not before me, because I'm lying, is the morning time, and that's Country with Trav, 10 a.m. till something. Then you got my boy Fred, the AI robot, spelled with a P. He spends it when there isn't a human in here. Then me, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, every Thursday, 4 o'clock, except for last Thursday. 4:20, we open a big fat bag of cannabis news. I do all the singing and dancing for you. I shoot out the door. Stinky Arts Music Mart rolls right on in for whatever Stinky Arts Music Mart does. But it's bound to be stinky, am I right? And then we got the mixtape, and then we wrap Thursday up with the Artemis Blood, the Shrine. Whew, and that's your Thursday. But man, if you anywhere close to Fargo, you're loving this weather like I am. I don't know what's going on, but I'd like to sign up to the El Nino newsletter for the rest of my life. Because whatever's happening this winter, I may like it. May like it to happen again. Feel me? So, man, oh man. Here we are. My voice is kind of funky. Again, I just got to look at Poison Ivy and it'll like text me, I got you. You know what I'm saying? And I just assumed, I guess I wasn't even thinking, because I don't think, that I'd be up, 11,000 feet in the north, I believe it was North Andes Mountains, and I would find the one replication of Poison Ivy that they have, that I'd have to get it. I've got spider bites. I got some crazy funk gnat bites that I got in some sort of like snake herbivore area as I was hiking through this crazy zoo. But I made it. I seen blood. I heard gunshots, but I'm here. I was also able to help the folks, they're doing a mission work there, so I was able to contribute, hand out some tracts, just give kind of some moral support. They're like in their late 70s learning a new language. So shout out and props to old people being gangster. All right. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson has approached its first musical whatchamacallit. Here's Cosmic Cruiser, Geiger von Muller, 95.9. Well, I hope everybody's pleasantly tranquil after Cosmic Cruiser by Geiger von Muller here on KRFF 95.9 RadioFreeFargo.org. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. That's what's happening today. That's what's happening now. 420, we're going to open a big fat bag of cannabis news. And boy, oh boy, am I excited to do it. I'm so excited. I took a week off, drinking good coffee, looking at blood puddles, hearing gunshots, living. Checking out churches, eating food. There's a spot up in the mountains where you could catch your own trout, and then they would cook it and make it with the meal. $7 a plate, bruh. And that included the fishing pole with the bait and the fish. And my family and my pastor, who also came with, they know catch any fish. I had to. I mean, they would have starved if it hadn't been for me. Anyway, that's that. Cannabis, Canna-Talk ND. Me, Wilson. Thanks for joining me. 95.9. That's the host. This is from High Times, Feeding the Beast. And this is interesting because I've been kind of wondering this too, like I wonder, well, was there ever a time that I wasn't, that I was anxious to be anxious, So we'll talk about this. Feeding the Beast, High Times. This is kind of interesting to me. Is cannabis treating? This is by Jackie Bryant. Is cannabis treating or accelerating my anxiety? That's a question for y'all right now. Now, just like she says, she's not talking about the sensationalized news reports about high-dose THC or scromiting. We're not talking about scromiting here, folks, okay? Or other types of pop culture urban legend claiming weed makes you all sorts of crazy, okay? And I'm reading from her. She says, I'm talking about, and I'm assuming Jackie's a she, but who knows? I'm talking about unprecedented levels of anxiety, depression, and likely other more severe mood and personality disorders that are going unchecked due to economic uncertainty and, in some cases, calamity. Skeptical attitudes towards mainstream medical practices, a lack of understanding regarding how cannabis can help or hurt mental health, and if I had to guess, a healthy dose of the internet, too. You pop onto any cannabis meme page, cruise through a selection of growers' accounts, or read any Telegram chat, and it's clear people be fighting. And while macro factors are to blame, I'm also pretty sure the prevalence of intoxicating substances and a lack of formal mental health oversight probably isn't helping either. Add to that the promise of a flashy, fun, and seemingly cool budding industry that's had its wings clipped off. It's a perfect recipe for a mental health crisis. I don't say this critically, nor lightly, nor absolve myself from evaluation. Cannabis users have been marginalized and played with by various factions and forces since the beginning of time. And I'm not interested in perpetuating stigma that cannabis is overly harmful. But I do believe that overuse can become a mask for mental health ailments if one isn't tuned into oneself properly. And this kind of resonated with me, certainly being, in another country for 10 days. I started looking at my own cannabis use and mental health while I was taking an extended tea break while pregnant, as my dreams came back, but my anxiety did not subside. It was clear I had other issues that weren't necessarily related to my cannabis use. But after I gave birth, weaned off breastfeeding, and started to consume cannabis again, I wanted to approach this new me with a healthy dose of skepticism and wonder. Now, I'm reading an article about how it says, Feed the Beast, is cannabis treating or accelerating my anxiety? So, but after I gave birth, weaned off breastfeeding, starting to consume cannabis again, I wanted to approach this new me with a healthy dose of skepticism and wonder. Was I using too much cannabis before I got pregnant? I wrote about that while I was pregnant, wondering aloud, and got an incredible response. It turns out many in the cannabis world were also wondering the same thing, including some big names. But is there such a thing as using too much cannabis? I know that THC is biphasic for anxiety, specifically, which is my main issue. This means that at certain doses, specifically low ones, THC can help alleviate anxiety, but it's different for every person. At higher doses, which again are different per person, it actually stokes anxiety and makes it worse. And as from experience, I can tell you that happens. I started to wonder, and still do, if I'm unintentionally over-medicating. And that gave me pause, and therefore hurting myself. It is very common to seek THC for anxiety support. This study claims 50% of medical cannabis patients use cannabis for anxiety. Interestingly, CBD at all doses is shown to be anxiolytic, which it alleviates anxiety regardless of amount. And we'll kind of look at this a little more, but it's time to drop that gospel jam before we open the big fat bag of cannabis news. Now listen, if you ain't about that gospel, turn it down. We'll be back in 5 minutes. This is I'm Blessed. Doobie Powell. Get it.
Gotta let him know.
Oh, yeah, a little gospel for those ears. I'm Blessed Doobie Powell on KRFF 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org. We're streaming everywhere on this blue and green marble. We want to get into your ear hole. Programming on 95.9 FM, Radio Free Fargo. KRFF-LP is being underwritten by Drummer's Journey. Drummer's Journey offers percussion instruments, hardware, electronics, accessories, and more. They have full service for drummers. They include repair, custom building, and lessons. Drummer's Journey is located at Highway 10 East Mall in Moorhead, Minnesota. Their hours are Monday through Thursday, 11 to 7, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 5, Sundays, noon to 5. For more info, check drummersjourney.com. They have a profile on Facebook. Well, I believe it's time we do that thing, folks. So get ready. Strap your headphones on. Scurry to that freezer, get some ice. Stick it to the cylinder if you got a medical card. Get ready to learn something, friend. Peace.
Hey, it's Phill from Canna-Heads. Like this episode? Hit that like button. And if you enjoy the show, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on cannabis news, local and national. Listen live on 95.9 in the Fargo, North Dakota region from 4 to 5 p.m. on Thursday. For our non-Fargo region friends, you can listen on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Now enjoy the show.
Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it, huh? Man, I'm sweaty. I don't know if I'm just kicking out the poison from all the bugs. I'm also under a regimen of, it's anti-amoeba meds. It's called parasitic. And whenever you're in like a place that thinks it's okay to pee and poop in the same water they make tea with, you just, a lot of times they'll say, well, bring it home with you. And if you feel some discomfort, go ahead and take it. I'm just going to go ahead and take it. So I wonder if my body isn't doing some sort of thing, because I've been sweating like it's menopause. All right. I mean, I've been drenched. You could squeeze. I mean, right now you could squeeze my shirt out. I mean, I've taken temperature. I don't have a fever, but I may or may not have been bitten by a mosquito the size of a penny. I mean, who knows? He might have been a dingy fever carrier. Feel me? But let's not get hung up on that. It ain't all about me. It's about cannabis. Let's talk about cannabis. 420. We're opening a fat bag of cannabis news, and we're going to do it. Now, I was talking about feeding the beast, and now the article is, does cannabis alleviate anxiety, or does it cause it? Let's see. Years ago, I interviewed cannabis research scientist Emma. She had this to say about why people feel anxious when using cannabis. A few things happen physiologically that causes us to feel anxious when smoking cannabis. They're all seemingly caused by THC. This anxiety response is related to THC, though it is largely dose dependent, and it doesn't necessarily happen in all people. THC interacts with areas of our brains that are responsible for both euphoria and anxiety. When we consume too much, the brain quickly switches from happy-go-lucky to imminent threat level danger. I've also had several medical doctors and researchers tell me that it's also possible that feelings of mental discomfort come from THC-induced changes in perception, not necessarily inherent anxiety. For example, some people feel a loss of control, which they perceive as negative. Their heart rate increases, breathing patterns change, In other words, a lot of this anxiety, and in some cases, it spikes dopamine and helps people, like with ADHD. A lot of this anxiety has to do with physical changes caused by THC intake. So, THC is a vasodilator. It opens up blood vessels. So, there you go. I don't want to sit in. What I think you should do, because this is just an interesting read, just from your own perspective and just, of your own usage, per se. It's High Times article. It's called Feeding the Beast. Check it out. Now, here we go. We got Minnesota in the news, South Dakota in the news, respectively, for this Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. We do have other things to talk about, but when there is local news and it's got a Dakota at the end, well, I'm duty-bound to cover it. So this is Cannabis Moment. South Dakota Senate approves medical cannabis guardrails for people on probation and parole. Now, South Dakota is pretty something. So this seems like it shocked me that they approved this. So let's kind of get into it. The state Senate endorsed a bill that would require parolees and probationers to get additional sign-offs from a healthcare practitioner to get a medical cannabis card. And if those additional sign-offs are just precursory kind of policy just to satisfy the Senate, Well, then I'd say it's a win. Current law on medical cannabis has no prohibitions on access for people on probation or parole. Even as steering clear of drugs and alcohol are often expectations for those serving out a sentence of supervision. However, Senate Bill 191 wouldn't bar the issuance of a medical cannabis card for a person on supervised release. Senator Jim told the Senate that the state's judicial system wanted some guardrails against abuse of the medical cannabis system by people under their supervision. They just want to have some level of comfort that the folks who are receiving medical cannabis certificates, that there is a bona fide debilitating condition and that they're receiving proper medical care. Now, these are all just buzzwords to say we want to just be in control. You know, they just want to have the last say. And it's usually just cracker box, just cliche type responses, similar to we can't do it because it'll hurt the children. We'll explain how it will. We don't have to. Stop it. It's for the children. You know, it's kind of the same kind of thing. I mean, because I'm sure it's shocking to a lot of these regulators who had no problems jailing these particular people and violating their probation and parole for these particular things, to then have to eat a little crow and say, no, we want to protect these people that you were horribly mean against. If I could use a horrible, not use a very smart word, just mean. I didn't have anything proper right there. But you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, I think it's cool. It's kind of like a stick it to the man. So they tried to do a particular thing and it didn't fly. So they came up with a language that was looser. Last month, it would have banned the use of cannabis until the drug is approved for use nationally by the FDA. So that failed. 9 days later, it was reconsidered in light of its amended language, passed 4-3. So that's cool. I dig it. Now let's keep moving on. Again, you're listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. Cannabis moment. Job Corps. Remember that concentration camp for youngsters? Man, I don't know. Job Corps. I never went. Maybe I should have. I knew people that did, and I don't know if it fixed them. Job Corps is the national job training program administered by the U.S. Department of Labor, has changed its drug screening protocol. Now, this is kind of interesting. All right? They changed the drug screening in order to avoid punishing young people. Well, bless your heart, Job Corps, for using cannabis prior to starting the program. Though Job Corps is drug-free and alcohol-free, participants with a history of use are not automatically deemed ineligible. All new and readmitted students are required to be tested, okay, upon arrival. If they test positive, they're enrolled in prevention and education services and then screened a second time about 40 days later. Now check this out. Prior to the new change, any positive on the second test, you were done. Under the new procedure, however, someone who tests positive on the second test would not be penalized, so long as there's at least a 50% reduction in THC levels. That's kind of cool, I think. Results below that threshold will be considered a negative test and attributed to drug use prior to enrollment. The student will stay in the program and receive a relapse prevention services, which I still think it's probably kind of intrusive and it probably will feel like being on probation. But officials say, we believe our new policy will help us better meet students wherever they may be and provide them with a platform and opportunity to make a change in their lives. So they basically are saying it's a means, and our policy will now screen students into the program rather than out of it, which, again, that's cool. So anyway, there you have it. So a lot of things are changing. New South Dakota law removes workplace protection for medical cannabis patients and safety-sensitive jobs. Now, I think that doesn't sound good. I don't think that's a win here. South Dakota's Governor Kristi Noem signed a bill into law this week that would roll back employee protections. Now, that don't sound good. Slightly, so maybe not much. Allowing employers to take action against people who test positive for THC if they work in a safety-sensitive position. But then that's a gray area. And if you're allowed to make your position sensitive and you just are anti-cool, well, then you're just going to start using this. And it's kind of like just a backdoor way to keep people from working if they're pro-cannabis. The bill also clarifies that discipline or termination for violating a drug-free workplace is not grounds for an employment discrimination or wrongful termination claim. Okay, the change adds clear boundaries to the state's workplace law, which says that a registered qualifying patient who uses cannabis for a medical purpose shall be afforded all the same rights under state and local law as the person would be afforded if the person were solely prescribed a pharmaceutical medication. Sounds great. Now, here's the ones that don't, adoption. If they adopt this bill, that means that that's no longer the case for safety-sensitive workers. See, it used to be an umbrella, covered everybody, like teachers, pilots, construction workers, healthcare professionals, truck drivers, nursing home employees, teachers. And then, of course, here's his lovely addendum here, and others. So that can mean you. While state law already contains a provision specifying that no employer is required to allow any employee to work while under the influence of cannabis, testing positive for THC or metabolites does not mean that a person is impaired on the job. And now I would argue that utilizing cannabis that maximizes your performance should be allowed at work as well. On one hand, the change brings South Dakota in line with other states that have established anti-discrimination protection for workers who use cannabis but excluded safety-sensitive positions. So South Dakota doing, here we go. We got a fun one for you all. You ready? And before I go any further, I wanted to just mention that it looks like next week we will have a returning guest to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. If you remember, about a month ago, my brother, a combat vet suffering from PTSD, had recently got his medical card. He was kind of just fresh out the gate with it. He was all over. He didn't really know what or how or anything. He's got a little more knowledge with his own quest for, helping himself with medical cannabis. And here at Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, that interests us. And so we'd like to pursue and follow that. So it looks like he'll be in studio next Thursday. We're going to talk about his dosage because, if you were listening last time, you got no clue. You don't really have a dosage instructor. You kind of got a trial by error. And if anybody's ever greened out and took too much, it'd be nice to have been told not to go and do that. But again, mistakes is how you perfect it usually. So if the stars align, my brother, Sambo Rambo, will be in the building. We're going to talk about his journey so far. Apparently he's made some discovery and we want to hear about it. So come back next Thursday for that. Now, this is from High Times. Man swallows over 110 grams of hash in attempt to avoid getting busted in Bermuda. So let's say 28 grams is an ounce. 28 times 4, 5. So that's like what? 5, like a quarter pound of hash. And hash is, strong, bruh. A man swallowed 110 grams in a desperate attempt to avoid drug charges on the island of Bermuda. Well, check this out here. So police simply waited for the hash to come out. I guess you don't absorb hash. Everybody dies from all the other drugs because you absorb it. Ain't nobody, if the balloon breaks in your stomach, bruh, you ain't pooping out 8 balls. You're dying is what you're doing, okay? But hash, apparently, comes out in pellets. They counted 53 pellets of hash that went entirely through his body. It's a lesson learned that other vacationers should be aware of when planning a trip to any one of the 181 islands of Bermuda. The Royal Gazette reports that Kenny Butterfield admitted importing the controlled drug. The man originally faced charges of possession with intent, but the charge was dropped. Now, I don't know why. He was arrested after refusing to be x-rayed by custom officials. Now, I was told that you could pass x-rays with it in you. People are doing it all the time, right? I don't know. Butterfield was taken to King Edward Memorial Hospital to undergo a drug test. While there, he shot 44 hash butt pellets out of his hindy hole and secreted an additional 8 the next evening. So if he secreted an additional 8 the next evening, he had to have been loaded. This guy had to be out of his mind. He must have been, hurry up and get these 8 out of me. They were found to be about 110 grams of hash called cannabis resin. Apparently, it would sell for more than 11 G's on Bermuda streets, more than 22,000 by the gram, and more than 12,000 by the quarter ounce. Magistrate Maria Sofianos ordered that reports be completed for Butterfield, who has previous convictions for similar offenses. Mamby-pamby. I don't know. It's all fun and games until you eat a bunch of hash pellets. Now, this is, I don't know what you think about this. This is another kind of just like thought-provoking from High Times here. Smoking, and it's crazy because you're thinking this is anti-cannabis propaganda here. Smoking surpasses injection as leading ingestion method in overdose deaths. Now, just think about that. I mean, IV use has always been the dancing with the devil type of, of route of, ingestion. The ROI has always been, oh my, I don't know if I should be using a needle to get this drug into my body. And I personally don't know anybody in my life that utilized that route of ingestion that's alive or has quit before they died. But those people, I don't even know if they exist. But in my world, everybody I knew, and I'm sure there's some that are still alive, and it's not this ain't a set in stone. But I'm telling you, there's way more of my friends that utilized a syringe that are no mo here than are here and healthy and kicking. It just was, Now, there was some concern with your lungs crystallizing when we were smoking foilies with meth. But it certainly wasn't considered a way to overdose, right? I mean, you could just never get enough in your lungs to die. But a recent CDC study has shown that more people appear to be smoking fentanyl, the blues, whatever they calling it now, than injecting it. And it's killing them. More Americans are overdosing and dying by smoking illegal drugs as opposed to injecting them. And that's crazy. Of the 109,000 recorded overdose deaths, which occurred in 2022, almost 70% involve fentanyl. And a recent study showed that fentanyl users are beginning to favor smoking as a preferred method, surpassing those who favor injection. And that just kind of trips my brain out. I mean, I would imagine it trips your brain out too. Because again, it just always seemed like IV was the most dangerous and the most addictive. So, the percentage of overdose deaths with evidence of smoking increased 73%, and the percentage with the evidence of injection decreased 29.1%, people. That's crazy, isn't it? Changes were most pronounced in deaths with illegal manufactured fentanyls, with or without stimulant detection. The study was performed using CDC data taken from death certificates. So this is pretty legit data. Okay. The kicker here is overdose deaths with evidence that the user smoked fentanyl increased 109% when comparing the two time periods, with 3,000 deaths recorded in the first half of 2020 and 58 in the second half of 2022. Insane. So the leading route of use in drug overdose deaths changed from injection during January to June compared with ingestion, 15. And here, there's even, what do we got? Snorting, 13.6%. People have died. And I don't know, from meth, maybe, from fentanyl, maybe. I mean, because I've known people that, I'm not trying to toot my own nose horn here, but, I have put a gram up my nose at once. Now, that really messed me up, and I probably chose to never do that again. But to do more than that, I just think maybe your heart would explode. I don't know. Anyway, what do we got here? Now, this is interesting. Let's talk about this. Cannabis moment. This is wild. All right. Now, you guys ready for this? This is a Minnesota news story. Minnesota Republicans, they warn of blackouts and brownouts from marijuana cultivation's energy use. Okay? Now, nobody that is mining Bitcoin in their home has ever read an article that said, stop mining your own Dogecoin because there will be blackouts and brownouts. Now, if you don't think there's a bunch of energy being sucked into a dude's garage with all these CPU units doing his little mining thing, if you don't think electricity is an issue with even small little mining of the Bitcoin, you're crazy. And nobody talks about that, okay? But boy, oh boy, do they have to bring this up. All right, so let's look into it. So, and they start by patronizing, okay? They start by patronizing. They say the home cultivation of cannabis could lead to a power failure as grow lights put an overwhelming strain on the state's electrical grid. Again, no mention of Bitcoin mining. I mean, no mention of what are we doing here? There's got to be stuff that takes electricity that people are wantonly utilizing that they could do without. Okay, but my first thought is mining of digital currency. That takes a lot of. I guarantee you, that's putting a strain on the state's electrical grid. Okay, I mean, we even having a farm in North Dakota, a huge farm that has to rival any sort of home cultivation. Okay, so check out what Representative Paul Novotny's got to say. Okay. Now, I hope most of you are not familiar with the cannabis grow operation as he talks down to you. So now he's patronizing you, says Representative Paul. But I will tell you that it takes a ton of electricity. No proof. It's just some talking head. But I will tell you, oh, you told us, huh? You just told us that none of us are familiar with cannabis grow operations, okay? And then now you want us to believe you're the know-it-all? I would probably assume that you're not very familiar either, all right? Now, here's what Senator Eric says. He goes, get ready for blackouts, man. That's what's going to happen, man. Who called cultivation under the law unsustainable? Okay. So as noted by Heartland Signal, which reported on the event, some states that have legalized cannabis. So here we go. As Massachusetts and Illinois have taken steps to regulate energy use. Many, however, have done little to curb power consumption. All right. In addition to grow lights. So here's where they start just, talking out of their hind end, to be honest. Indoor cultivation can also require various temperature and humidity controls, which consumes electricity. Well, it does, but so does a greenhouse. I mean, so does stinking growing orchids in Minnesota in the winter. All right. Nevertheless, the GOP politicians are exaggerating the industry's threat to electrical stability. Of course they are. There's never been a shutting down electric plants caused by cannabis cultivation, as he warned will happen. Republicans in the state have largely been sour on cannabis legalization, of course. So, of course, they're the ones. So, 5 Republican House members and 1 senator voted for the legislation. GOP concerns about cannabis reform go beyond energy issues. So, Senator John seemed to think this was a big deal. He said it would lead to earlier retirement for drug-sniffing dogs. Well, maybe they should just be out chasing their tail and grabbing cocaine rabbits instead. In fact, maybe you should try to get them to smell cocaine and send a couple to Ecuador, because I think could probably put a couple of them to use, maybe a couple thousand. Elsewhere in Minnesota party politics, Democrats recently asked the state to decertify. Okay, this is stuff that don't matter, but again, I mean, I've known people with little grow closets, right, back in the day, and there was never a concern about electricity. All right. So let's just talk about this, and then we'll get out. Well, let's see. Let's find a good one. Let's find a good one. I don't have one. So let's just talk about this then. Okay. That's from High Times again. Mexico busts meth mega laboratory, biggest in over 5 years. Again, you're listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. I get in here every Thursday, 4:20. I open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and I'm about out the door with it, but come back next Thursday, and I'll regale you with more cannabis info. It'll focus on cannabis medical and a combat vet that's choosing to use it as opposed to the crazy head-screwing meds that they try to make them take. So so it'll be interesting. So come back next Thursday. But until then, let me tell you this. Mexican authorities have raided and dismantled the biggest meth lab found under the current presidential administration in the northern state of Sonora. What did we find? Over 1 billion doses of methamphetamine. It was responsible for the seizure of 41,000 kilograms, 12,000 kilograms of precursor chemicals. So I'm not sure what that is. 1 billion doses of meth, not to split hairs, but by my count, it's more like 540 million. So they always like to, wrap it up. But check this out. This is kind of wild. Mexican Navy also indicated that 72 reactors, 102 condensers, 32 centrifuges, 3 vehicles, 2 motorcycles, a trailer, and other miscellaneous material was seized. Now, what in the world are we talking about? Centrifuges? It's been a long time since I knew any meth cooks, but what in the world? Were they building some jet engines? I mean, I think the time machine was being made in there, folks. But anyway, thank you for joining me for another super groovy Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Now this is when I do this, and I tell you music, and I won't say music, I'll say programming. Man, maybe I am a little rusty. Maybe that week drinking good coffee, watching some awesome mountains, might have took me off my game a little bit. However, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. Programming on KRFF LP FM, Radio Free Fargo, 95.9 FM is being underwritten by Flatland Guitar in Lutherie. Flatland Guitar is your full-service guitar shop and your exclusive dealer for Yamaha, Taylor, Paul Reed Smith guitars, and other brands. They sell guitars on consignment. They take trade-ins and have a full-service on-site repair center. Check out Flatland Guitar and Lutherie on Facebook or visit them in person at 1450 25th Street South in Fargo. Their hours are Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Saturdays 10 to 5 and closed on the Lord's Day. Now let's get into a little something here, and then I'll come back. I'll say a few words, tuck all you people in, and then I'm out of here. Here's nowhere else to go. Too many zoos. Oh, welcome back. Nowhere else to go. Too many zoos and Moon Hooch. That's brand new here for you at KRFF 95.9 Radio Free Fargo.org. That's in fact what you're listening to, and we sure are glad that you're doing it. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. We got Stinky Arts Music Mart coming through, so be ready for that. We got the mixtape. We got the Artemis Blood Shrine, so do all that stuff too. I'm going to get out of here because that's what I do when it's time to go. I get out of here. But first, I want to tell you, I believe God created cannabis for us to use as we see fit, and I show him props every Sunday at Antioch Church. 10 a.m. recovery, 11 a.m. worship. Come on by. We'll say hi. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook. 1,200 mgs of locally grown hemp, comfrey, ylang-ylang, colloidal. Just put it on your outer body. Thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy, for sponsoring this show. I believe you need to educate yourselves on the benefits of cannabis so you can educate others on said benefits. And I'll be back next Thursday. If things work out like they're planning to, I'll have my combat vet bro back up in the building talking about his medical card and his newfound freedom with his ability to find out what works best for him in the cannabis market. And we're curious, too, because here at Canna-Talk ND, we like to know about that stuff. And if we can follow it firsthand, I can provide it to you. And, So come back next Thursday, would you? And we'll be here 4 o'clock. You be here 4 o'clock. I'm going to get out of here now. So, again, educate yourselves on the benefits of cannabis so you can educate others. It's Judgment Day. David Allen. Up next, Stinky Arts. Peace.